yo creo que todo es mejor que yo intento en español, am, pero si encuentro algunas cosas, voy a decirlo en inglés. Las letras están en inglés porque la presentación está en inglés, pero gracias por la bienvenida. Soy Nicolás Torres y voy a hablar de una visión de contribuciones y colaboración internacional de educación médica enfocado en nuestra visión que estamos haciendo en América Latina. Um, para hacer ese tipo de colaboración, empezamos con nuestra visión. Nosotros tenemos 45 años haciendo ese tipo de trabajo y entonces somos internacionales, pero también tenemos que ser intersectoral y también tenemos que ser intergenerational, como tenemos que trabajar con las escuelas fuera de las escuelas médicas y con la comunidad y intergenerational que tenemos que trabajar con las diferentes generaciones porque ahí viene muchas de las contribuciones. Para lo que voy a decir, hablado hoy, es 5 cosas. La primera es de partnerships and the role, cómo trabajamos juntos. Para empezar ese tipo de colaboración, necesitamos una plataforma. Entonces, yo voy a compartir la plataforma que nosotros tenemos, que estamos usando para América Latina. Voy a decir un poco de dónde estamos empezando con colaboraciones entre 5 países. No significa que no vamos a trabajar con los otros, pero estamos empezando con 5. La enfoque de lo que estamos haciendo con esos 5 países y después para una visión lo que podemos pasar con proyectos concretos donde las instituciones pueden trabajar juntos. Primero empezamos con the partnerships, como nosotros trabajamos oficialmente con the World Health Organization y trabajamos también, no en algo oficialmente, pero trabajamos muy cerca con the Pan American Health Organization. Y tenemos, we have agreements de lo que nosotros vamos a trabajar por 3 años. Y entonces, cuando nosotros estamos llegando con la agenda de WHO y PAHO, nosotros estamos trabajando con ellos para llegar para alcanzar a sus metas, pero también podemos llegar a nuestras metas también. Entonces, es importante para nuestro trabajo estar en that our work is also combined and working alongside them, and we are, in a sense, an operational arm to achieve their vision. Pero la primera cosa para América Latina y para todo el mundo es esa plataforma. La plataforma es muy importante porque sin una plataforma uno no puede trabajar. Entonces, esas son fotos de nuestra plataforma, entonces, donde estamos en todo el mundo, pero en América Latina, donde estamos concentrados. ¿Ustedes pueden ver la plataforma todavía?
Sí, sí, doctor, sí se ve.
Ok. ¿Qué pasó? Y quiere compartir eso con todos, porque la primera cosa es ser parte de esa plataforma, porque aquí se puede encontrar la gente donde quieren trabajar. Entonces, por ser parte de eso, y si uno quiere un proyecto o quiere hacer algunas investigaciones, es importante para dónde se puede encontrar. Entonces, no se puede solo llamar a la gente que se conoces, pero se puede colaborar con gente en todo el mundo. Entonces, se puede decir si conoces a una persona, pero también se puede decir que tú quieres buscar por un keyword como de research de women's health. Y así se encuentra gente donde se puede colaborar y se puede hacer en Latinoamérica, women, y ahí se puede encontrar la gente. También se quiere para decir, pero vamos a ver si ponemos Perú.
Doctor, nosotros podemos ver la plataforma, pero no podemos ver lo que usted escribe. Nosotros vemos la plataforma para la
Ah,
colaboración, vemos el espacio para buscar personas.
ok, déjame tratar otra vez. Aquí. Ok, ya está viendo.
Ahora sí.
Ok, perfecto. Entonces, esa es una plataforma donde todos nuestros miembros existen. Lo que es importante para saber si uno quiere hacer una colaboración o investigación y está buscando gente con puede buscar, se puede buscarlo por ese search mechanisms. Por ejemplo, si uno está buscando por país, vamos a encontrar como Perú. Y, y no sé, o experiencia o agencia, o se está buscando mentor. Entonces, es una manera para encontrarlo. Entonces, es importante para hacer eso. Después, cuando uno encuentra la gente donde se puede trabajar, se puede se puede reunir, or you can join other groups. You can create your own group, or you can create your own project. And so it's just very important to have a platform, of which case the collaboration can build. So we have built this platform. It is there for Latin America, and then you have like all these ongoing projects where people can work together and they can really start doing these type of work. So I'm going to stop sharing, and then let me reshare so that you can go back to the presentation. Okay, so I think that's the first point that I wanted to make for collaboration, is that join the collaborations, and then you can collaborate not only within Latin America, but across the globe. The second point that I wanted to make is we are creating these centers of excellence. And those are the ones we're working with. And these are the people we're working with within Peru, within Colombia, within Mexico, within Argentina, and within Brazil. And really to say the individuals and their institutions who are also partnering with the associations of medical schools within those really starts building a local infrastructure for collaboration, not only within the country, but across countries. And then within Latin America, then we'll also have them around the globe. And by providing these centers of excellence, it's a certification. It's really giving them the capacity, the local capacity, and the platform to work with and from each other. Now, there is some particular goals, because you have to remember we are starting from the World Health Organization and the Pan American Health Organization's goals, and then we're translating them down to our particular goals. And so when we look at these, it's like they are focused on being socially accountable, doing interprofessional education. And then there's also communities of practice around health priority populations, indigenous health, migrant or refugee, remote and rural elderly. And then the last is also providing global learning opportunities, where there's learning that can be that occurs from both a leadership perspective, from a dean, a vice dean, to a faculty perspective that's complementary to what they have, to a student perspective. So these are very important to have that local infrastructure. So we are working with these first countries, but we will eventually expand to Chile and Bolivia and the Caribbean and other places to do this. So the third component of really looking on building collaborations that can contribute together is really the focus. And so looking at these centers of excellence within each country would have a focus of, the first one is certification and evaluation. So we are not working as an accreditation agency, but we're working to be complementary to accreditation agencies. And the focus is on providing the tools for institutions to be socially accountable, meaning they're responsive to people and society's needs. They're also be able to move forward with their interprofessional education practices, which is sort of like from the global down to the local. Then the second one is, and then we're also looking at the particularly like how do you address the workforce challenges that we have? Because when you look at healthy communities, it's not just the doctors and the nurses, but it's really looking at other cadres of the health workforce that participate with the doctors and the nurses in the hospitals to make healthy communities. So, and we're looking really at the certification of what do those other workforce cadres look like, and can we certify them to ensure that they have the skills and competencies to work as part of the team. The second focus for these centers of excellence is global learning, similar to what we're doing here, where you're looking at what we called it the tough academies, and saying is like there are certain skill sets that a dean or a vice dean or a leader could that needs in order to lead their institution, but not only their institution, but lead across the country with other institutions. And so we're providing, in a sense, the platform and the learning for that. But then in addition to that, understanding that faculty also have their particular needs. There's certain courses, there's 4 courses and almost like that faculty would have that would say is like what could be complementary to themselves to advance their own ability to teach better. That brings in other components, and we provide the curriculum and the training and then the courses for them. And then the third one is really for the students to say not to not to provide the same thing that the medical school would be providing to them, but provide complementary instruction that may not be within their curriculum of the clinical education. And this last thing is like the focus is really this local infrastructure. In order to build the local infrastructure, you need an institution who's also partnered with the Association of Medical Schools to do that. So that's I think the next part for collaboration and how to contribute is really building these communities around these focus areas. It does lead to very specific goals. So when we look at collaboration, we also understand we have to put a North Star out there of where you need to go and what you need to accomplish. So we're saying within each center of excellence, they would be working towards these goals and saying, we want 30% or 25% or 50% of the institutions who are working collectively to reach these goals. But with that platform, you're able to bring together institutions for collaboration. And then those institutions are then able to contribute back to the global learning for that. So when we dive in a little bit, like our vision for Latin America, particularly for these ones, is to dive deep into becoming socially accountable into professional education. Now, these are standards that may or may not be within the accreditation standards, but if they're not, they're really what medical schools globally are moving toward and saying, how do we do that? So there's a tool, a self-assessment tool, and then it measures all these particular things. And then we're adding in these are more on social accountability, but we're also adding in the interprofessional education ones. But it's a tool to move the institutions forward. And imagine in Peru, if there's 10 institutions who are doing this, then they're going to learn with and from each other. Multiply that by 5 different countries. Now you have 50 institutions who are all working and learning with and from each other on this platform. The other place is really bringing people together. So it looks like the Tough Global Conference will be coming to Peru in 2025. So it's a really way for the Peruvian medical schools and other health sciences schools to come together, but really for us an opportunity to bring the world and showcase the best options for Peru. So it's also in Latin America. But beyond conferences, there also can be regional conferences within Latin America. That could be a partnership with the Pan American Health Organization, or just led simultaneously by these 5 centers of excellence and saying, let's come together and share our practices. When you really look at these, the second area of collaboration contributions where faculty is to learn from each other, that's the health workforce education for public good for the students. It's for the students to come together. And the idea is to say, let's move outside of our own institutions and let's move to learn across institutions with each other. And then last is these ideas of communities of practice. There are certain populations that we across the globe are saying, how do we provide the best healthcare and ensure that they're healthy communities? Our priority areas, as they have been for many years, and the priorities of many remain as Indigenous health, remote and rural, because it's harder to provide if you're not in an urban setting where you have the hospitals, hard to provide those. another population is the intellectually development domain, autism, dementia, mental health. So how do we integrate that into our primary care? Migrants and refugees, as as people are moving across, and we all have refugees and migrants within our countries, aging society, and then women's health. And so the idea here is to say, we're providing to these center of excellence that will then be adapted locally within each country. So in Peru, so we're providing the general instruction of general practices that have how to serve them. And we're also working towards dividing what are those skills and competencies that are needed from a doctor to a nurse to everybody to serve these populations in a sense. But end of the day, it's really about a community practice of a platform for people to collaborate and come together and then learn from each other and then adapt. And then I think this last leads into the area where a lot of the institutions, so on all these topics, what Tough is not doing is research on these ones, or we're in a sense evaluating them. So, but we're inviting all the partners in to then come in and say, let us provide the research on all these different topics to say, and that research can then be published, as we have two journals, in our two journals, Education for Health, and then we also have a Social Innovations. Education for Health is the Medline Index Journal, where research is published and saying, did you make a difference within your institution to that? And the Social Innovations Journal is more focused on a practical for practitioners, like what are best practitioners in terms of what you're thinking about the themes and a learning platform with each other. And so to kind of conclude of saying, how can the Peruvian medical institutions contribute to the global conversations? One is join. We can work with you. We have a platform for Latin America. We have a platform for each country, but you can join either as an individual or you can join as an institution. And then you are able to find each other and then start on those collaborations, and then you become active in it. So that's the first point. The second one is, we are building these centers of excellence. So, Peru is one of those targeted ones, and we're working with an institution and then the association to get this established. And then our platform will be their platform, and their platform can be utilized across all the medical schools, and invite other schools into it also for a platform for that. So it's really partnering with them. And then the third one is, once we have you on board and in those platforms, then you can do projects. And again, when I say back to collaboration, it has to be projects. But now we give you a platform to do projects on social accountability, do projects on faculty development or student learning, do projects on hosting regional conferences, do projects on research, or other projects that you may suggest. So with that, I will stop and saying that is sort of our vision for what we hope that we can accomplish in Latin America. It's not a accomplish it tomorrow, but it will be something that we want to accomplish from 2024 2027, and ultimately it's being driven locally through the Association of Medical Schools in Peru and through one key organization, a medical school, who would partner and then bring together all the institutions.
Dr. Torres, thank you so much for your presentation. I think that you gave us a lot of really important information. Quisiera saber si alguien del público tiene alguna pregunta específica para el doctor Torres, o si tal vez podríamos utilizar algunas de las preguntas que ya habían realizado para el doctor Valdés, que creo que el doctor Torres podría darle respuesta a algunas de ellas. Mientras va empezando las preguntas, me gustaría hacerle una pregunta muy puntual al doctor Torres. What do you recommend of how to start the path to join to the network as a university? How to start to collaborate? Because sometimes it's hard to motivate our teachers and students to join to this kind of networks. So what do you recommend to start the path in a university?
Sí, es una pregunta muy importante y muchas veces empezamos con los estudiantes. porque ellos son las personas que están recibiendo las instrucciones de la facultad y la escuela y todo eso. Entonces siempre buscamos un líder o de grupo de estudiantes y empezamos con ellos porque ellos tienen las necesidades y ellos también están buscando oportunidades de aprender por todo el mundo, por otros estudiantes, por otros países y algo así. Esa es una manera de empezar. Yo creo que ese sería uno. El segundo sería con the Indicators for Social Accountability Tool. Es como, it's not accreditation, it's certification. But that will be a place for the faculty to come to, and the leaders in the faculty to come together and say, how can we not go beyond accreditation and get a badge, in a sense, a global recognition to say we are a socially responsible institution who also is having good school outcomes and societal impact in the countries we want. So I'd say that would be the best starting point to bring faculty and leadership together and say, what is the value of that? And then the third one would be, the network is a network of networks. You learn when you engage with other people. So in 2025, our next conference is in South Africa. So you're all invited to come, but in 2025 would be in Peru. So that would be an amazing opportunity for all the faculty and all the schools to get to know the global faculty and leaders across the world, because it's that person-to-person relationship that really matters, and that builds collaborations in the future.
Thank you so much for your answer. So we have another question for the audience. How to host a network event?
So we have different platforms to host. We've served as a platform to take your information and give it to the world. So we do host workshops or symposiums. You just need to contact us. It's in my contact information's in the I'll put it in the chat box, but it's also there. So you could email me and then we can host you and host your targets for that. So we do have a platform for that. If you wanted to host something locally, I think we would say, let's work in partnership with FEPFM and one of the schools when we get the Center of Excellence, and they will be the host, and then the network would be invited in. We really believe that most of the work that happens and the change that happens at that local level. So we are doing it in partnership with FEPFM and institutions. But if you wanted to expose it to the world, we have to do it virtually because it's impossible to get the globe together. But we do have a platform for hosting workshops and symposiums, and then we invite the globe to join you and listen to you.
Thank you so much for your answer, Dr. Torres. Quiero preguntar nuevamente al público, ¿alguien quisiera hacerle alguna pregunta o algún comentario a la intervención del doctor Torres? Realmente él nos da información valiosísima con respecto a The Network y realmente todo el impacto pues, que puede generar para nuestras instituciones. Nosotros en Colombia hemos tenido eventos relacionados con The Network esto me parece que fue como en el 2010, 2011 y fue una experiencia maravillosa para nosotros como Colombia porque realmente nos dio la posibilidad de interactuar con personas de todo el mundo y de fortalecer procesos de investigación en el ámbito de la medicina comunitaria. Entonces, thank you so much for your intervention, Dr. Torres. We don't have more questions for the audience, but we in